Okay, this is the main, most important part of this lesson plan because this is the game. This is where you are going to come back to years later when you are trying to play a game in this section and you want to see what game worked. This is where your eyes are going to come to set up your class. So this is a very important section and it has a lot of components to it. All right, the first part is the game management. And here you're going to see all of the different things that need to be included in the activity content game management section. Basically, I should be able to read your lesson plan, or a PE person should be able to read your lesson plan and play your game by what is written. Okay? There should be very little questions in our minds of what exactly is going on, or how to set the class up, how to manage the students, how to start the game, the rules, the modifications, the equipment. Everything should be described in this section so that you can play the game later, or a PE person can read it, take your lesson plan, and play the game. So you need to be very specific in this section. Now, when you're writing this section, you are going to use third person, okay? You will not write I or me or they. You are going to use third person. The teacher will set up the students. The teacher will describe. The teacher will show. And then you will say the students will. You're not going to use I or me or them, okay? Third person, teacher will, students will. As you are writing this game management section, you want to make sure, once again, to include all this information as well as any modifications that you will have to this game. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 important words that you are going to hear over and over and over and over again from me and Miss Raines. What this is going to be is change, challenge, choice. How are you going to change the game to make it fit other students? How are you going to change it to accommodate the students in your class better? How are you going to change it if it's not working? Okay, those topics need to be written right in here. How are you going to challenge your students? Okay, how are you going to make it more difficult? If it's too difficult, how are you going to make it easier? How are you going to challenge them at a lower level? Okay, and choice. What kind of choices are you giving the students? Remember, you need to put some of the learning in their hands. You need to give them a choice of equipment or a choice to choose what object they get. Not every time, but as you progress and modify your game, how are you going to give them the change, challenge, and choice to progress through this lesson and modify the lesson if it's not working like it was supposed to? How are you going to modify equipment? What are some examples? Give examples of how are you going to modify equipment. Have that equipment with you. Have it with you. Have available, okay? Not in the equipment room. How are you going to space students out and move them if they're not working right? What if you have too many in the line? Okay? All of these things are going to be addressed. Travel pattern. Oh, you have the kids going in the wrong direction or too many going to the same direction. You're going to write examples or changes of how this might happen. Okay? Organization, partners, and groups. You may have 2 people in a group, but that may not work. So you may have a modification where you have 3 to 4 people as a backup plan in case this doesn't work. All of these modifications are backup plans. Okay? And they're also progressions or digressions. Okay? All of this you need to have written and pre-thought out so that you are not having to think on the spot. Now, obviously, you can't predict the future, so you're not going to be able to predict everything. But this is a good starting point for doing your modifications. Okay, here is one example of how to write the game management, and this comes from our hot garbage lesson plan that we've started. It talks about who the garbage men are, what the problem is. The goal is to clean up the garbage without using our hands. The teacher demonstrates the dribbling with the inside of the foot. That goes back to the skill. We're going to emphasize the word dribbling, which is academic language, which is what you're going to write over here. Okay. This is this right here is the class setup. Okay, and this is important, how you're going to set your gym up. And this is also going to be reflected in the diagram as well. Place colored hula hoops in the corner of the gym. Place garbage, which are noodle slices, throughout the court. Place cones on the side of the court. Divided into 4 teams. When the music starts, all teams begin to move. Students will get a noodle slice and dribble it back to the thing. So that's what they're doing, the movement. Once they dribble the noodle slice, they must go back to the streets and find more trash. So it's telling them what they're going to continue doing. The game, and when the music stops, the game stops. Once the music stops, each team will work together to count the noodle slices, okay? Which is in your academic language over here, teamwork and cooperation. You'll talk about those words. Next, they'll progress to the same hoop, same slice pickup, okay? Walk, no running, this is different things. So I can read this lesson plan. I can read all this here, and I could play this game from this example and from the diagram. This also explains the modifications. Okay? What if it's too easy or even too hard with the noodle slices because they're little? Okay, you could increase or decrease the challenge of dribbling by using playground balls. Okay, for some that might be easier, for some that might be harder. You could use deflated soccer balls, not completely flat, but the ones that just don't roll very well. You could here's some rules, okay? So we have a change. Okay, we have a challenge. Dribble to your team's hula hoop, or onto the color, place the hula hoops on the court, allow the students to do it. What are the challenges? Okay, and give them choices. Change, challenge, choice. In here, you could use a hockey stick. Give them a choice, okay? Or those could be challenges or changes. It doesn't matter. It's all explained in this modification section. And now in the academic language section, what you're going to write here are the words that you want the kids to repeat back to you, or the skills or the statements that you want the kids to repeat back to you while they're playing the game or what you're focusing on. So this is the academic language section, okay? He put it in the form of questions. He put it in the form of statements. It doesn't matter as long as it's there. Okay, now we're going to move on to the instant activity part of this lesson plan. What the instant activity is what you are doing as the students enter the gym or as the first basic activity. And I'm going to give you some examples of instant activities when it comes to elementary, which are very different from instant activities when it comes to secondary. Now, for younger students, most of the time when they come in the gym, they will do some type of warm-up, stretches, some kind of a little video song exercise thing. You may do anything that you want to. That's going to take 2 or 3 minutes. They may come in the gym, they may run laps as they're coming in the gym, and until everybody gets in, they're kind of circling and they sit down. They may come down and you may have stations already set up that you've already talked about. They come in and go to their station for the day. Whenever all the students get in the gym, after 5 minutes, they go to their seat and you start the game. This can be lots and lots of different things, okay? This is what I suggest for elementary kids, especially K through 2. And the reason I say that is because elementary PE classes are normally about 30 to 40 minutes. And when 30 minutes, you don't have a lot of time. Now, if you have some time, what is also good to do as the first activity of the class is skills. And it might be, if you're working on kicking the soccer ball, have the students practice the dribbling, practice the kicking, practice something that will lead into the game. However, setting up kindergartners for skill stations and getting them going and then stopping them and then regrouping them and reassigning them and trying to play something else is way too much transition for a 30-minute class, okay? Which is why I say that the skill stations that progress into your game should be done on Monday and Tuesday of the week of the lesson. And all of those skill stations that we talked about in class, that's what should be done on that Monday and Tuesday, so that on Wednesday they can come in and they're able to play this basic game of hot garbage that uses these skills in the game in order for them to be successful. So, by knowing that, it is up to you to write what instant activity that you want to do with your students based on your situation. Now, what is a learning task? Learning task 1 is exactly that. It's describe the first part of your lesson and how it progresses. Now, if you remember from the example, the first activity that the students perform are dribbling noodle slices. The students will dribble noodle slices. So that's the first part of your lesson, the dribbling of the noodle slices. So learning task number 1 would therefore be the students attempt to pick up as many noodle slices while only dribbling with their feet, okay? So that is the first part of the lesson. You're going to find the first initial part of your lesson, and you're going to take it and you're going to put it down here in learning task 1. Now, the modification, remember, these are the modifications here. Okay, so you can change it, change challenge choice, remember, you can get 1 noodle slice at a time. Students can only get the slices that are the same color as their own hula hoop. And if you remember, these are the same modifications that were listed up in this section earlier. Okay, and these are the assessment questions and how are they going to assess that the students are doing it correctly? And you know what you're going to do? You're going to go right back to your assessment table and right back to the state course of study. And you are going to write this and an open-ended question. Open-ended. Okay? You're going to ask the students, when dribbling the noodle slices, how do you keep control? You notice it's how. How. Okay? How do you make sure that you can take the garbage back to the trash can? You are asking the students. These are the questions that you ask the students. Okay? That's all you're going to do in this section. And it's all based on what? Your assessment table and the Alabama State Course of Study. Now to continue with the learning task, this is learning task number 2. And this is basically your second progression of the lesson. Okay? So what was the second progression of this lesson? We started with noodle slices. Okay? And now we're moving on to small playground balls instead of the noodle slices as trash. And this is all written in the game management section. Okay? So that's the second learning task. Now, what are the modifications to this section? Instead of using playground balls, they may use larger deflated balls. They wrote that up here. Okay. It gives change, challenge, choice. Change, challenge, choice. Okay, place hula hoops closer to use as potholes. You could give the students the hula hoops and they could put the potholes where. That's the choice. So these are your modifications in this area. Now, what are the questions that you're going to ask to the students to find out if they're doing this right? What are the questions? What's the academic language? What's the assessment right here? Okay? Academic language, assessment, all goes together. Okay? How is dribbling a ball different from dribbling a noodle slice? Open-ended question. Got it? You're asking the student, what makes it different? Okay? How is it different to only be allowed to retrieve my own team's noodle slices? You're asking them this, okay? This is your academic language. And what are you looking for? What is your assessment looking for? You're looking for these answers, okay? You're looking for the teamwork, the cooperation, the dribbling, the alternate feet, the tapping. These are the questions that you're looking, the answers that you're looking for when you ask these questions. All right, now that we're going to move on to learning task number 3. And this is the third progression of the game. Now, the students are going to dribble real soccer balls to pick up the trash. They were able to do the small ones or the deflated soccer balls. And so now you can bring in the real soccer balls. Okay? Now, what if some kids can't use the real ones? Okay? There's your modifications. They're still going to get the deflated soccer balls, or they may even get a larger beach ball to dribble. Okay? What are some ways? Change, challenge, choice. Change, challenge, choice. Put a time limit on it. Increase the intensity. Okay? Make it more competitive. Give them some choices. All right? Now, finally, you're going to ask the question. Okay? Why is staying under control important when dribbling the soccer ball? Okay? So you want them to give you these answers because you need foot-eye coordination. You need to be able to dribble it correctly. They're going to tell you all of this academic language in this assessment. Okay? Again, open-ended questions. All right, and finally, in the game management section, or under the game management section, you must have a diagram. And this diagram has to have keys or cues or codes that tell what the symbols are or stand for, okay? This diagram must explain your words, okay? It turns your description into a picture of the game setup, okay? So everything that is said in this part of the lesson plan, place cones along the sidelines, okay? Road entry cones, there's the cones, okay? This is the way they travel. Here's the hula hoops in the corner of the gym. This is all the noodle slices or whatnot. Okay, this is the travel thing. So this explains basically how to set up your gym. Okay, so this is the diagram, the basic diagram of the explanation of game management.